The Carter house sat at the end of Maple Drive, a perfect little box with a white picket fence and a porch swing that never moved. At 2:47 a.m., every light inside died at once. Not a power outage. The neighbors reported seeing the upstairs window pulse with a faint orange glow, like a heartbeat behind the glass. Then silence. No screams. No sirens. Just the hum of cicadas and the soft click of a door opening on its own. The police found the family of four sitting upright at the dinner table, eyes open, mouths moving without sound. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. Just the smell of burnt sugar and something metallic, like old pennies. The only clue was a single word carved into the kitchen floor, in letters that looked like they had been written from the inside out. Help! Detective Mara Cole arrived at dawn. She had seen worse. But this was different. The letters were not carved with a knife. They were pushed up from below, as if something had been trapped under the foundation and clawed its way through the wood. The family still sat at the table. They breathed, but their eyes did not blink. Mara noticed the youngest daughter, Lily, age 7, had a small smile frozen on her face. Her fingers were wrapped around a crayon. The same shade of orange as the light from the window. Mara crouched down, and Lily's hand moved. She drew a circle on the table. Then another. Then a line connecting them. A pattern. A countdown. Mara looked up at the ceiling. The light fixture above the table was swinging. Very slowly. No wind. No draft. Just the rhythm of a pendulum. Tick. Tock. Tick. The circle had 7 marks. 1 for each day. This was day 1. The department called it a mass catatonic event. Mara called it a message. She studied the drawings Lily had made. Circles inside circles, like a target. And in the center, a tiny figure with no face. The other children in the neighborhood reported seeing a woman in the Carters' backyard at night. She wore a long white dress that did not move in the wind. She stood under the oak tree, staring up at Lily's window. One boy said she was holding a pair of scissors. Another said she was singing a lullaby, but the words were wrong. Mara interviewed every parent. They all said the same thing. The Carter family was normal. Happy. Boring. But boring was safe. Boring did not carve warnings into floors. Boring did not smile while their daughter drew pictures of faceless women. Mara went back to the house that night. Alone. She stood under the oak tree. The grass was dead in a perfect circle around the trunk. And in the dirt, a single crayon. Orange. Fresh. Mara picked up the crayon. It was warm. She looked up at the second-story window. The orange glow was back. Flickering. Beckoning. She entered the house. The family was still at the table, but their heads had turned. All 4 of them. Facing the stairs. Lily's hand was raised, pointing up. Mara followed the finger. At the top of the stairs, a shadow stood. Not a person. A shape. Tall. Thin. With too many angles. It did not move. It simply watched. Mara's radio crackled. Static. Then a voice, but not from the radio. From the walls. A whisper. Soft. Repetitive. It said her name. Mara. 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 She backed toward the door. The front door slammed shut. The lights went out. And in the darkness, she heard the scissors. Snip. 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 Coming closer. She fumbled for her flashlight. Clicked it on. The beam hit the shadow. It was gone. But the floor was covered in crayon drawings. Hundreds of them. All the same. Circles. Targets. and her own face, with a line through it. Mara ran. She burst through the back door into the yard. The air was cold. Too cold. She could see her breath. The oak tree was now covered in orange crayon marks. Every branch, every leaf, all drawn over. She heard the lullaby. It came from the house. From Lily's room. A child's voice, but hollow. Mara looked up. Lily was at the window, pressing her hand against the glass. Her mouth moved. The words were silent. But Mara understood. 7 days. Then the woman comes for you. Mara checked her phone. No signal. The car was dead. The streetlights were off. She was trapped. The shadow stood at the back door now. It held the scissors. And it smiled. Not with a mouth. With the space where a face should be. Mara turned to run. But the grass beneath her feet was soft. Wet. Sticky. She looked down. The ground was covered in orange crayon. And it was moving. Writing itself. Forming words. One word. Over and over. Help. 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 The shadow stepped closer. Snip. The story was only beginning. The lullaby wrapped around Mara like a shroud. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the melody seeped through her bones. The orange light from the house pulsed in rhythm with the song. She turned back toward the oak tree. The crayon marks were moving, sliding along the bark like living things. They formed new shapes. Faces. Dozens of them. All staring at her with empty eyes. The faces of every child she had ever failed to save. Mara stumbled backward. Her foot hit something soft. She looked down. A crayon. Orange. It rolled toward her as if pushed by an invisible hand. She refused to pick it up. The lullaby grew louder. The back door slammed shut behind her. Mara was inside again. The family sat frozen at the table. Their heads still twisted toward the stairs. But now their mouths were open. Singing. The lullaby came from them. 4 voices. Perfect harmony. Mara looked at the youngest child. A girl no older than Lily. The girl's eyes were white. No iris. No pupil. Just white. She was drawing on the table with an orange crayon. Circles. Inside circles. Inside circles. Mara reached for the girl's hand. The moment she touched it, the singing stopped. The girl turned her white eyes toward Mara. She smiled. Then she spoke in Lily's voice. You found me. The voice came from the stairs. Mara released the girl's hand and stepped back. The orange glow at the top of the staircase pulsed like a heartbeat. She had to go up. Every instinct screamed against it. But her feet moved anyway. The first step creaked. The crayon drawings on the wall shifted as she passed. They watched her. Faces of children she had never met. Some crying. Some laughing. Some with their mouths stretched into silent screams. The lullaby came from above. Soft now. Almost gentle. Mara reached the landing. The door to Lily's room was open. The orange light spilled out like liquid fire. She stepped inside. Lily sat in the middle of the floor. Her back was to Mara. She was drawing on the wall with both hands. Each hand held an orange crayon. The drawings moved as she made them. They crawled across the plaster like living things. Mara whispered her name. Lily did not stop. The lullaby came from everywhere now. From the walls. From the floor. From the crayons themselves. Mara stepped closer. The drawings on the wall began to form a door. A door made of orange light. Lily turned her head. Her face was blank. No eyes. No nose. No mouth. Just smooth skin. But she was still humming. The door in the wall swung open. Beyond it was darkness. And something in the darkness was humming back. Mara dropped to her knees. She picked up a crayon from the floor. It was warm. Hot. It burned her palm, but she did not let go. The door of light pulsed before her. The faceless Lily stood beside it, still humming. Mara understood now. This was not a message. This was an invitation. The thing in the darkness had been calling for years. Through every child. Through every drawing. Through every orange crayon left behind. Mara raised the crayon. She began to draw on the floor. Circles inside circles. A target. And in the center, she drew herself. The door widened. The darkness reached out. It had fingers. Long and thin. They brushed her cheek. And Mara smiled. Because she finally knew what the children had seen. Not a monster. A mother. The crayon seared deeper into Mara's flesh. She felt the skin blister and peel, but her fingers refused to open. The faceless Lily tilted her head, a sound like wind through broken glass escaping from where her mouth should be. Mara looked down at the crayon. It was not wax. It was bone. A finger bone, painted orange, still warm with the life it had once been part of. The door of light hummed louder. Lily's drawings on the wall began to move faster, crawling toward the ceiling, bleeding into each other, forming a single shape. Mara tried to speak, but her throat closed. The faceless girl reached out and touched Mara's forehead with one finger. The world split open. Mara saw everything at once. The house. The other houses. The street. The town. All of it was built on a single wound in the earth, a crack so deep it touched something that should never be touched. The drawings on the wall were not drawings. They were memories. Memories of children who had been taken, one by one, for 100 years. The faceless Lily was not Lily. She was all of them. A chorus of lost voices wearing her daughter's skin. Mara screamed, but the sound came out as orange light. The crayon in her hand melted into her palm, fusing with her bones. She felt the door pulling her forward. Behind her, the real Lily screamed. Lily's scream broke the trance. Mara turned, her hand now glowing from within, the fused bone crayon pulsing under her skin. The faceless version of Lily stood between her and the real child, humming louder now, the song becoming a physical pressure in the room. The drawings on the walls peeled away, floating in the air like ash, swirling around the faceless girl. Mara reached toward her daughter with her good hand. The faceless Lily grabbed it. The touch was cold. Colder than anything Mara had ever felt. It was the cold of a grave. The cold of a century of waiting. The door of light began to close. Mara understood the choice now. The door was closing. She could take her daughter and run. Or she could stay and learn what the house wanted. The faceless Lily squeezed her hand, and images flooded in. A woman in a blue dress, 100 years ago, holding the same crayon. A man in a suit, 70 years ago, screaming as the light took him. A boy with red hair, 50 years ago, who almost escaped but turned back. They all saw the same thing. They all made the same choice. They stayed. And they became part of the wall. Mara looked at her real daughter, still screaming at the bottom of the stairs. Then she looked at the faceless one. She pulled her hand free. Mara grabbed Lily's hand and ran. The stairs stretched beneath them, each step longer than the last, the house twisting itself to keep them. The orange light from Mara's palm cast their shadows in wild, jagged shapes across the walls. Lily was crying, her small hand gripping Mara's with desperate strength. Behind them, the faceless girl did not follow. She stood at the top of the stairs, her head tilted, watching. The humming stopped. In the silence, a voice spoke inside Mara's skull. Not words. A feeling. A promise. The door would open again. It always opened. And next time, Mara would have to choose faster. They burst through the front door into the cold night air. The house behind them went dark. But Mara's hands still glowed. The stairs did not end. They twisted, they folded, they became bridges over dark chasms that had not existed moments before. Mara's lungs burned. Lily's small hand was slick with sweat in her grip. Behind them, the faceless Lily did not chase. It simply walked, one slow step at a time, humming that terrible song that made the walls pulse like a heartbeat. Mara could feel the crayon under her skin moving, writing something on the inside of her bones. The house was not trying to kill them. It was trying to teach them. And it was running out of patience. The door appeared without warning. 30 feet tall, carved from wood so dark it seemed to drink the light. The carvings told a story Mara could almost read. A woman in blue, a child with no face, a house that grew around them like a second skin. Lily pressed against her leg, whimpering. The faceless Lily stopped 10 feet away, head tilted, waiting. Mara touched the door with her glowing hand. The carvings shifted, rearranged themselves, and the woman in blue became Mara. The child with no face became Lily. The house became a cage of their own making. The door dissolved into smoke. Beyond it, a room that should not have existed. Floating crayons, hundreds of them, each one a different shade of memory. They hung in the air like suspended rain, turning slowly, casting colored shadows on walls that were not walls but something softer, like skin stretched over bone. In the center of the room, a child sat drawing on the floor. Not Lily. A girl in a blue dress, her back to them, her hand moving in steady circles. The faceless Lily walked past Mara and sat down beside the girl, taking a crayon from the air. The girl in blue turned. Her face was not one face. It shifted, flickered, became 100 different children across 100 different years. Each one had drawn themselves into this house, given it their memories, their fears, their desperate hopes. The girl spoke without moving her lips. The voice came from the walls, from the floor, from the crayons themselves. You brought her here, the voice said. Not to lose her. To finish what we started. The floating crayons arranged themselves into a spiral, pointing toward Lily. Mara stepped in front of her daughter. The room cracked. Not the walls, but the air itself, splitting along lines of color. Through the cracks, Mara saw other rooms, other moments. A woman in blue crying over an empty crib. A child drawing a door on a wall and stepping through. 100 children, all of them lost, all of them still here, their voices trapped in the crayons they had used to escape. The faceless Lily looked at Mara with Lily's eyes now, real eyes, full of understanding. It held out a crayon. Pure white. The only color missing from the spiral. Take it, the house whispered. Or lose her forever. Mara reached out and touched one of the crayons. The moment her fingers made contact, a flood of images crashed through her mind. A boy named Tomas, drawing his son on his bedroom wall because he missed his father. A girl named Ilara, sketching a dog that had died years ago. Each crayon held a child's wish, a child's wound, a child's fragile hope. The house was not just a house. It was a library of souls, built from the dreams of the forgotten. The girl in blue watched her, patient as stone. You are the first one who ever came back, the girl said, her voice a chorus of whispers. They all leave. They grow up and forget. But you remembered. Mara felt tears on her cheeks. She had been here before. She had drawn a door in her own bedroom when she was 7, a door to a place where her parents didn't fight. And she had stepped through. The crayons began to spin faster, humming with a low, ancient sound. The cracks in the air widened, and through them, Mara saw her own past, her own childhood self, sitting on the floor with a blue crayon. The house is dying, the girl in blue said. Every time a child forgets, a room collapses. Every time a grown-up stops believing, a color fades. Mara looked at the floating crayons. Some were dull, almost gray, barely glowing. Others were bright, pulsing with light. She understood now. The house was made of belief. And belief was fragile. The cracks were spreading, and through them, she could hear a sound like glass shattering. The girl in blue took her hand. Her fingers were cold, insubstantial, like smoke trying to hold onto smoke. I can't save it alone, Mara whispered. The girl shook her head. You can't save it at all. But you can rebuild it. You have to remember. Not just your own memories, but all of them. Every child who ever drew a door. Every tear that ever fell on a crayon drawing. Mara closed her eyes. The house was screaming now, a high thin wail of breaking light. She felt the crayons falling around her like hail. And in the darkness behind her eyelids, she saw them. 100 children, 1,000, all holding crayons, all drawing doors. Open your eyes, the girl said. Mara opened them. The room was gone. She stood in a void, surrounded by doors. Thousands of doors, each one a different color, each one drawn by a different hand. The girl in blue stood beside her, but now she was solid, real, her face finally still. She looked about 12, with dark hair and sad eyes. My name is Lily, she said. I drew the first door. I've been waiting a very long time. Mara looked at the doors. One of them glowed with a familiar blue light. Her door. From her bedroom. Still waiting. The doors hummed with a low vibration, like 1,000 whispered secrets. Some were small, painted with stick figures and suns. Others towered, carved with symbols Mara did not recognize. The girl in blue raised her hand, and a single door drifted forward. It was a deep, bruised purple, its surface flickering with images. A child crying. A drawing torn in half. A promise broken. That one is yours, the girl said. Mara felt a pull in her chest, a hollow ache. She touched the door. The wood was cold, then warm, then pulsing like a heartbeat. Images flooded her mind. Her mother's tired face. The sound of her father's footsteps leaving. A drawing of a house with a broken window she had never shown anyone. The door began to weep a thin, silver liquid. The door groaned and split open. Inside was not a room, but a corridor of shredded paper, each scrap a forgotten thought. Walk, the girl commanded. Mara stepped inside. The silver liquid pooled at her feet, turning into small, bright puddles. In each puddle, she saw a different child. A boy drawing a dog. A girl coloring a sky. All of them alone. A shape stirred at the end of the hall. It was tall and formless, made of dust and shattered crayon pieces. Its hands reached for the silver puddles, trying to crush them. The girl in blue pulled Mara back. That is the forgetting, she whispered. It feeds on lost memories. If it takes yours, you will never find your way home. Mara scooped up a handful of the silver light. It burned, but she threw it. The light hit the shadow, and for a second, it screamed. A child's drawing of a yellow sun appeared in the air, then faded. The shadow shrank back, hissing. The girl in blue smiled. You remembered something. A single happy moment. Now find another. The corridor began to shake. Mara held the silver tighter. The shadow howled, its form unraveling into a storm of gray dust. The girl in blue pointed to the far end of the corridor where a door of solid light pulsed like a heartbeat. That is the remembering, she said. You must take the silver there. Mara ran, her feet splashing through puddles of forgotten laughter and lost names. The shadow lunged, but the sun drawing flared and held it back. The door of light opened without a sound. Inside was a vast white space filled with floating images, a child's first step, a birthday cake, a mother's smile. Each image was a memory not yet forgotten. The silver in Mara's hands began to hum. She knew what she had to do. She poured the silver onto the floor, and it spread like a river, touching every image, making them glow brighter. The shadow crashed through the door, but the light was too strong. It screamed as the silver wrapped around it, pulling it apart. The girl in blue stepped forward, her form becoming solid and warm. "I remember now," she said. "I was your favorite drawing. The one you made when you were 5. A yellow sun." Mara's eyes filled with tears. She remembered. The silver light absorbed the shadow, and the white space became a garden of stars. The garden was quiet. The girl in blue was gone, but the sun drawing floated beside Mara, warm and real. Mara touched it, and a single tear fell. The silver puddles had dried, the forgotten thoughts now anchored in the light. A path of soft grass appeared, leading back to her room. She walked, and with each step, the world behind her folded into a gentle hum. She was no longer lost. Mara opened her eyes in her own bed. The morning sun painted her walls gold. On her nightstand lay a yellow crayon drawing of a sun, slightly smudged, as if just made. She picked it up and smiled. The silver puddle on the floor was gone. But in her chest, a warm light remained. She had not forgotten. And she knew, somewhere, a girl in blue was drawing again, with colors that would never fade.